After years of constant suspicion, I secretly took a DNA test for my son, only to learn he wasn't mine but my brother's. When I confronted my wife, she tried to spin the narrative, claiming I was imagining things. But when the truth surfaced, both families erupted into chaos they couldn't escape. The first time doubt truly gripped me wasn't during a quiet evening or a passing thought. It was in the middle of a crowded family dinner. My son had just turned 8 and everyone was gathered around the long dining table, laughter echoing through the room. I watched him lean toward my brother, whispering something that made them both laugh in perfect sync. The way they tilted their heads, the identical smirk, even the rhythm of their laughter. It was uncanny. For a moment I felt invisible, as if I were watching two reflections of the same person. My chest tightened and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly off. That night I lay awake replaying the scene. My son's smile, the way his eyes lit up, it wasn't mine. It wasn't from me. I had always brushed off the subtle differences. His hair texture, the shape of his nose, the way he carried himself. But seeing him mirror my brother so naturally, so effortlessly, was like a spotlight shining on every doubt I had buried. I tried to talk to my wife about it the next morning. I chose my words carefully, not wanting to sound paranoid. "Don't you think he looks more like my brother than me?" I asked, half smiling to soften the question. She laughed, a sharp, dismissive laugh that cut deeper than I expected. "You're imagining things," she said, shaking her head. "Children pick up habits from whoever they spend time with. Stop overthinking." Her tone carried irritation, as if my concern was an inconvenience. I felt small, foolish, and guilty for even asking. But the doubts didn't fade. They grew louder. At school events, teachers would comment on how my son had such a familiar charm, glancing toward my brother if he happened to be nearby. At birthday parties, relatives would joke about how my son was a little copy of my brother. Each remark was like a needle, subtle but piercing. I smiled along, pretending not to notice, but inside the unease gnawed at me. One afternoon I caught my son practicing basketball in the driveway. His movements, the way he dribbled, the way he angled his shoulders, were identical to my brother's style. I had never played basketball seriously, but my brother had been obsessed with it since childhood. Watching my son mimic him so naturally made me pause. I asked, "Who taught you that move?" He grinned and said, "Uncle did. He's the best." My heart sank. The more I observed, the more the similarities piled up. His handwriting resembled my brother's. His jokes carried the same rhythm. Even his stubborn streak mirrored my brother's temper. It was as if I were raising a child who belonged to someone else. I tried again to share my worries with my wife. This time I was firmer. "It's not just looks. It's everything, his habits, his mannerisms. Don't you see it?" She sighed, rolling her eyes. "You're being ridiculous. You're his father. Stop creating drama." Her words stung. She didn't just dismiss me, she made me feel like the villain for questioning. The guilt weighed heavily. I started keeping my thoughts to myself, whispering them only in the silence of the night. I would stare at the ceiling, wondering if I was losing my mind. Was I jealous of my brother? Was I inventing patterns that weren't there? Yet every day new evidence surfaced, subtle but undeniable. The breaking point came during another family gathering. My son sat on my brother's lap, their heads bent together as they worked on a puzzle. My brother's hand rested protectively on his shoulder, and my son looked up at him with admiration I had never seen directed at me. My mother glanced at them and smiled, saying softly, "They're like father and son." The room erupted in laughter, but I froze. The words echoed in my head long after the laughter faded. That night I couldn't sleep. I paced the living room, the shadows stretching across the walls. My mind raced with questions I couldn't silence. I knew I needed answers, real answers, not dismissals or jokes. That's when the idea of a DNA test took root. It felt drastic, even cruel, but the weight of suspicion was crushing me. I ordered the test in secret, the package arriving in a plain box I hid in my office. My hands trembled as I swabbed my son's cheek, sealing the sample with a mix of dread and determination. I told myself it was just to put my mind at ease, to prove I was overthinking. But deep down I feared the truth. The waiting was torture. Every day felt longer than the last. I carried the secret like a stone in my chest, pretending everything was normal while inside I was unraveling. I watched my son play, laugh, and sleep, wondering if I was about to destroy the world he knew. When the results finally arrived, I sat alone at my desk, the envelope heavy in my hands. My palms were sweaty, my breath uneven. I opened it slowly, scanning the words that confirmed my worst nightmare. He wasn't mine. The biological match pointed directly to my brother. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the desk, trying to steady myself. My heart pounded, my vision blurred. All the doubts, all the whispers, all the sleepless nights, they weren't paranoia. They were truth. My son, the boy I had raised, the boy I loved with every fiber of my being, was not mine. He was my brother's. I sat there in silence, the papers spread before me, the weight of betrayal pressing down. The storm I had feared had arrived, and there was no escaping it. The papers lay on my desk for hours before I finally picked them up again. My hands shook as I folded them neatly, sliding them into a plain envelope. I knew I couldn't carry this secret alone any longer. That evening after dinner, I waited until the house was quiet. My son had gone to bed, and the hum of the television filled the living room where my wife sat, scrolling through her phone. I stood in the doorway, the envelope heavy in my hand, my heart pounding louder than the sound of the clock on the wall. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice steady but low. She glanced up, her expression neutral, almost bored. "About what?" I sat across from her, placing the envelope on the coffee table between us. "It's important." She raised an eyebrow, her fingers still tapping the screen. "You're making it sound dramatic." I slid the papers out, spreading them carefully. "I had a DNA test done." Her phone slipped from her hand, landing on the cushion beside her. For a moment, her face froze, then quickly shifted into irritation. "You did what?" she snapped. "I needed answers," I said firmly. "And now I have them." She leaned back, crossing her arms. "This is ridiculous. You're paranoid. You've been imagining things for years, and now you've gone too far." I pushed the papers toward her. "Read them." She didn't move. Her eyes darted to the envelope, then back to me. "Tests like that aren't reliable. You probably ordered it from some cheap website. Do you really think this proves anything?" Her words cut deep, but I held my ground. "It proves everything. He's not mine. He's my brother's." Her face hardened, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she laughed, a cold, sharp laugh that echoed in the room. "You're insane. You've always been jealous of your brother, and now you're inventing stories to make yourself feel better." I clenched my fists, the papers crumpling slightly under my grip. "Don't twist this. Don't make me the villain. I've raised him, loved him, cared for him every single day. And now I know the truth. You lied to me. You betrayed me." She stood abruptly, pacing the room. "You don't understand. Things weren't simple back then. You were busy, always working, always distracted. I was lonely. He was there. It wasn't supposed to happen the way it did." Her words hit me like shards of glass. I rose to my feet, my voice trembling with fury. "You're blaming me? After everything? You're standing here trying to make me believe this was my fault." She stopped, turning to face me, her eyes blazing. "If you had paid attention, maybe none of this would have happened." The room felt suffocating. My chest burned with anger, disbelief, and heartbreak. I wanted to scream, but my voice came out as a whisper. "You destroyed everything." Silence hung heavy between us. She sat back down, her hands trembling now, though she tried to hide it. "You're overreacting. We can fix this. No one has to know." I stared at her, stunned. "No one has to know? You expect me to carry this secret, to pretend nothing happened? To live a lie for the rest of my life?" Her eyes pleaded, but her words were hollow. "It's better this way. For him. For us." I shook my head slowly. "No. The truth is out. And it won't stay hidden." The next day I drove to my brother's house. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. When he opened the door, his smile faded instantly at the sight of me. "We need to talk," I said, pushing past him into the living room. He closed the door quietly, his shoulders tense. "What's going on?" I pulled the papers from my jacket, tossing them onto the coffee table. "You know exactly what's going on." He stared at the papers, his face pale. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he sank into the chair, burying his face in his hands. "It's complicated," he muttered. "Complicated." I snapped. "You betrayed me. You betrayed your own brother. You took everything from me." He looked up, his eyes filled with guilt. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It wasn't planned. We made mistakes." Mistakes. My voice rose, trembling with rage. You call this a mistake? You stole my family. You stole my son. He stood, his hands raised as if to calm me. I never wanted to hurt you. But I thought it would stay buried. I thought you'd never find out. I stepped closer, my voice low and sharp. Well, I did. And now everything is shattered. The confrontation didn't end there. Words spread quickly. My wife's tears, my brother's silence, my anger spilling into every conversation. My parents were dragged into it, their faces etched with shock and sorrow. My mother wept, begging us to stop, while my father sat in silence, his disappointment heavy in the air. Relatives called, some siding with me, others defending my wife, claiming families shouldn't be torn apart over mistakes. Every voice added fuel to the fire, every opinion deepening the divide. At one family gathering, the tension boiled over. My uncle slammed his fist on the table, shouting that betrayal couldn't be excused. My aunt cried, insisting we think of the child. My brother sat in silence, his eyes fixed on the floor, while my wife tried to paint herself as the victim, claiming she had been misunderstood. I stood in the middle of it all, the storm swirling around me, my heart heavy with anger and grief. Every word, every argument, every tear reminded me that the truth had torn us apart and there was no going back. The shouting at that family gathering didn't end when people left the table. It spilled into phone calls, hushed conversations, and long silences that stretched across days. My phone rang constantly, relatives demanding explanations, friends offering sympathy, neighbors whispering about what they had heard. The shame spread faster than I could contain it. Every corner of our community seemed to know, and every glance carried judgment. I remember walking into the local grocery store one morning. A woman I had known for years avoided eye contact, pretending to study the fruit display. Another neighbor whispered to her husband as I passed, their voices low but unmistakably about me. I felt exposed, as though the betrayal wasn't just mine to carry, it had become public property. At home the tension was unbearable. My son sensed it, though he couldn't understand the full truth. He asked me one evening, "Why is everyone angry? Did I do something wrong?" His wide eyes searched mine for reassurance. My throat tightened and I forced a smile. "No, son. None of this is your fault." But inside I was breaking. Seeing him caught in the middle, confused and hurt, was more painful than any betrayal. Family gatherings became battlegrounds. My mother begged for peace, her voice trembling as she tried to hold everyone together. My father, usually calm, erupted in anger at my brother, calling him selfish and reckless. Cousins took sides, some defending my wife, others condemning her. Every conversation ended in shouting, tears, or slammed doors. In the midst of the chaos, revengeful thoughts consumed me. I imagined standing in front of everyone, exposing my wife and brother publicly, stripping away the lies they had built. I thought about writing letters, making announcements, even confronting them in front of our community. The idea of watching their carefully constructed image crumble gave me a twisted sense of satisfaction. One evening I acted on those thoughts. I gathered close relatives at my house, laying the DNA papers on the table. "This is the truth," I said firmly. "No more lies, no more excuses." Gasps filled the room, followed by silence so heavy it felt suffocating. My wife tried to speak, but I cut her off. "You've had your chance to explain. Now everyone knows." The fallout was immediate. My marriage crumbled, the bond between us shattered beyond repair. My wife moved out within weeks, her belongings packed hastily, her eyes avoiding mine. My brother stopped answering my calls, retreating into silence. Even my parents struggled, torn between their sons, unable to reconcile the betrayal with their love for us both. The community's whispers grew louder. Some pitied me, others judged me, and a few even questioned why I had revealed the truth at all. But despite the chaos, I felt a strange sense of relief. The secret was no longer mine to carry. The burden had been shared, and though it tore everything apart, it also freed me from the weight of silence. My son remained at the center of it all. He asked questions I couldn't answer, looked at me with confusion I couldn't ease. I tried to shield him from the arguments, the phone calls, the tension, but children see more than we realize. He knew something was broken, even if he didn't understand how deep the cracks ran. In quiet moments, I reflected on what had happened. The betrayal was unbearable, the chaos overwhelming, but facing the truth gave me strength I hadn't known I possessed. I realized that honesty, even when painful, was the only path forward. I couldn't rebuild what had been destroyed, but I could rebuild myself. I began to focus on my own life, choosing to leave behind those who had betrayed me. My marriage was gone, my bond with my brother severed, but I still had my son. I poured my energy into him, determined to give him stability amidst the storm. Slowly I found peace in small things. Quiet mornings, honest conversations, the freedom of no longer living in denial. The chaos had left scars, but it also taught me resilience. I learned that sometimes, the only way to heal is to let go of what broke you. And so I chose to move forward. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. The truth had shattered my family, but it had also set me free.